must be cautious.
Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hi, this is Nick Anastasiou, story editor on Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Bad Batch. And you are listening to Aggressive Negotiations.
That's right, you made the right turn in hyperspace and you wound up once again with the broadcast transmissions from the outer rim of Aggressive Negotiations, the Star Wars podcast emanating out there in the galaxy far, far away, other galaxies that haven't yet been discovered, and galaxies well-traveled by space whales. I'm one of your hosts, Jedi Master John Mills, and it is my pleasure to welcome once again into the esteemed co-host's chair, the Jedi Master to my also Jedi Master. How you doing, Jedi Master Matthew Rushing?
I'm a little out of breath. I just jumped off my fathier and got here as fast as I could. I almost missed it. And I just had to, I don't know why, but I felt like this intro needed a fathier reference for some reason. Canto Bite, it's crazy. But I'm just glad that I finally made it here to our recording studio. Goodness.
I suppose it's probably good that riding a fathier, you know it's safe because they can't bite. But anyway, you can, of course, reach out to the show over on thenerdparty.com/contact, and you can reach out to us on X at the Jedi Masters. You can find the network at Joy Nerd Party on X, and also as the Nerd Party on Facebook and Instagram. And we're all too old and too busy to start a TikTok account because, man, I don't know. We're having too much fun exploring fun, unexpected topics like the one I'm about to throw at you. Anybody who's a longtime listener knows that every so often Matt and I like to throw surprise topics. And I'm thinking to myself earlier, here we are in the holiday season, whoop-de-doo, as we record this. And I'm thinking to myself, we've gone to great lengths to prove that there is a complexity even to the Sith or the Sith acolytes or the Inquisitors. Basically, they're not running around killing people all the time. We've discussed on the show before what is, in a syncretic, force-aware galaxy like the galaxy far, far away, what do holidays look like? And what I wound up thinking, because I was at work, and this is just what you do when you wish you were at home, in terms of holiday celebrations, let's just take as a given that they exist in the Star Wars galaxy. Life Day jokes generated on command there. Did Lord Vader and Lord Sidious participate in any holiday celebrations that weren't just Empire Day parades? Like, was there the equivalent of an Imperial Christmas party, basically?
Yeah.
Is my question.
Great question. I mean, of course, John, because there's Sithmas, and which is the celebration of all previous Sith lords. And really what it is it's a whole holiday for the current Sith lords to dunk on all of the other Sith lords who, of course, are now dead. And so, and it's where, you tell bad jokes about how they died, and, you drink, Mustafarian wine, which is incredibly spicy. And, you also, you spin the chance cube. And of course, everybody's cheating, because they're Sith,
right.
At least the two of them
never
that are
stops
there.
rolling.
Exactly.
No.
It's a small party though, again, because, there's only two,
True.
a master and an apprentice, and it's always super awkward, when the Inquisitors are trying to show up and they're like, we're Sith too, or other dark force users are like, can we join? And you're like, dude, it's Sithmas. No, of course you can't join.
The thing is, keeping going down sort of like the funny road, I'm thinking in terms of like the first holiday celebration after the Death Star has been destroyed. The Emperor just gives Vader like a big box of nothing. And he's like, well, there's nothing in there. It's like, of course, I gave you a Death Star. You wrecked it. You get nothing this Christmas.
I was going to say he gives him a burned Andorian, whatever that animal was that Chewie was after. And it's like extra crispy, like super
just
burnt.
taunting him like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just a taunt. Like
I could see the Emperor doing something like giving him a gift that is like you're saying, like food, and Vader being like, I can't eat this, and the Emperor just being like, oh, too bad. I guess I'll take it then, and just like eats it in front of him, sort of thing. Oh, this is so delicious. You don't have any taste buds anymore, but man, you wish you could.
You should really try this. I mean, whew, oh my gosh, the Mon Calamari sweet and sour sauce is amazing on this, right?
but like that's got to be like an awkward sort of thing. Like you cannot have any sort of functional society without like holidays. You need bread and circuses to keep everybody placated, right? So there have to be some sort of holiday celebration, and we know that there is some sort of, you know, maybe it went away over time though. Like maybe the time we get to Return of the Jedi, it's gone. But like we've established, we know the Emperor loves art. We know the Emperor, you know, he goes to the opera. He appreciates fine pieces of sculpture. All of these sorts of things. It's not necessarily a gift-giving situation, but there's got to be something where, I mean, there had to be holiday celebrations before the Empire. They can't outlaw all of them.
Yeah.
So you have to have some sort of like get-together party. We see in one of Jyn Erso's flashbacks that there's a party that her father's attending. Was that maybe a holiday party on Coruscant?
You know, I do think it's interesting because I think, you know, so I've just been reading the book, The Boys in the Boat, which is about to be a movie, which is about the young men from the University of Washington who win the 1936 Olympics, and at you know, against all odds, and you know, of course, those Olympics took place in Germany, in Nazi Germany, before the major war had started. And so it's interesting thinking about that, because what happens with the Empire is basically what happens in Germany. The state becomes the religion, you know, and so that's where I do think when you were just joking, but seriously, I think that Empire Day is the thing that becomes the national holiday, the celebration of the way in which the Empire had saved us, right? And I think that there's something incredibly powerful about the idea, and you know, we started off super silly, but you know, we've talked at length about this idea that, you know, one of the thematic elements of Padme dying is by her leaving this galaxy, it's a representation of all that is good and wholesome and true and right and natural in the galaxy kind of dying for the mechanization of the Empire. And so them then stripping away to this idea of, you know, Vader becomes a boogeyman. Why? Because nobody else really has the Force. Religion isn't talked about in that sense. The Force is not talked about. We everything just becomes what is material, and instead, and the stripping away of, you know, the supernatural, the spiritual from all of life. And so it does make sense to me that in many ways the Empire would try to stamp out everything it could when it came to religion or religious ceremonies. Think of here you go. Here, great example. And Andor, right? The planet that they're on, where the eye happens, that is a religious ceremony for this culture. But they have slowly been stamping that out and destroying it so that these people have nothing to celebrate, right? And so I think that's a great example of kind of what we're talking about.
That's a really good pull.
Always the tone of surprise.
Yeah. Well, it would be gradual. You're right. It would be gradual. Slowly, as you break people's spirits, they stop celebrating in the same way. Then celebrating becomes a drag. Then they're cynical about it. Then they just, half of them are like, you know what? It was all bogus anyway. You just have to break their spirit and get them to the point, and then you just wait out the true believers, and either you'll weed them out some way or they'll die off, and you just be patient about it. I hate to draw like a real world example, but you look at, like Tibet, right?
Yeah.
Wall them off.
Yeah. Yep.
Fine. Go ahead and believe what you believe, but we're just going to make sure you can't grow, and we'll just wait for you to die out, and then we win.
Yeah. It's a great point.
It's a grim thing. Okay. I can go along with that, but it's one of those things where I think honestly it roots itself from the fact that Vader's a miserable being. He's driven by hatred. So's the Emperor. So are the Inquisitors. But every being seems to have to carve something out to celebrate. There has to be something that keeps you going in a way. Maybe it's something grim or dark or something like that, but it just seems to follow for me that maybe at least in the early years, the thing is Vader, he's never going to participate in anything like that. But the Emperor would at least put up the show of celebrating. He'd do it in a very cynical way, and he'd give an address and sort of like, honor the traditions and everything. I find it interesting that we have established in canon Empire Day. I would think there would be Palpatine Day as well. That would have to be a celebration of the Emperor
which
himself.
Is very close to Captain Picard Day in Star Trek. So with less, child sacrifice and stuff. So at least Captain Picard Day is, Empire Day and Palpatine Day. So oh my goodness.
So let's expand on that. Like, we know we have Empire Day. I'd submit we would have to have like Emperor Day. And I still think that in Star Wars Rebels, the Emperor over time would present himself in public as having been restored in some way. Because remember when he appears to Ezra as the hologram?
Yeah.
The hologram looks like a more vigorous Palpatine. And we see him say, it's left me scarred and deformed. But if you're going to manipulate history, you can always say, I had a lot of, restorative work, or my willpower carried me through and we were able to get me back to my fighting trim and stuff like that.
It's taken a lot of really painful surgeries to get me looking like this.
But, I guess that is it. Because the thing is, I guess it's just one of those things where I suppose it's good, but I can't imagine living that joyless a life where you didn't have holidays, where you didn't have something like that, something to look forward to, see in some sort of seasonal fashion.
Sure.
Where it was like, okay, at this regular time of the year, it's specifically designated to slow down, give thanks, and also give of yourself and stuff like that. I guess I just can't wrap my head around it. Do I just need to accept that people like that exist, especially in Star Wars, that they're incapable of celebrating anything?
Yeah. So, because I do think, during the Empire's reign, I think this is what would happen, is all of that kind of cultural aspect is stripped away from people. There would be any kind of celebration you could have, such as birthdays and those kind of things, where you would be holding on to any place where you could have some sort of celebration, right? And in some ways, just to get really, philosophical about it, and this is, I think, what's so interesting, and one of the reasons why the rebellion, picks up steam, is that people cannot live in a world without greater purpose in their lives. In true Nietzschean fashion, it is basically impossible to truly live as an atheist in all that actually entails, right? Because there's always something that we're going to be reaching towards and kind of worshiping and kind of putting at the top of our lives. And so, these people would need something. People would need something all over the galaxy. And, for those who then started to lose faith in the Empire, the thing that they had been kind of putting at the top of the totem pole, I think that this is the place where, we've talked at length before on the show, the way in which I think George Lucas, whether I would ever agree with him completely, of course, or not, he really did dig into the same thing that, Joseph Campbell did, which was this idea that we can't get away, that there's like something more out there. And so whether it's our mythology, whether it's what we believe, for our faith, we can't get away from it. But of course, then Lucas even kind of embraces that even more by showing in his universe that there is something bigger. There is something greater, that is binding the galaxy together and making sense of all of this senselessness that's happening. And so I do find that to be just an incredibly interesting thing, as much kind of fun as we've had with the question. I mean, I think it's incredibly valuable, and it, to truly bring it to our society, I think that that's something that we're finding as well. David Foster Wallace, the author and professor who died, unfortunately, too young, talked about this idea that nobody is truly an atheist. We all worship something, right? And is an incredibly interesting quote there about that whole idea. And so somebody realizing this idea, I think, is, to me, very fascinating. And so I think that really digs at the question that we're getting at. Like, everybody has to have something bigger in their lives to create meaning or purpose. And we all do it, whether we, believe in a higher power or something. Something's giving us meaning. Something's giving us purpose. So I think the same thing comes down and, obviously in the Star Wars universe, right? And I think that's maybe, we've kind of pinpointed an incredible reason as to why people rise up against the Empire, because they realize it's an incredibly empty and hollow existence, and they don't want to live that anymore. And they realize they don't have to if they, fight it. So,
well, I mean, if your empire is the only thing you're allowed to worship, that's like worshiping your boss or your job, which, honestly, there are people who, whether they phrase it that way or not, they do. They worship their work.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And we see how that goes. So maybe there is a real world sort of, I mean, it's just another way, I guess, that Star Wars sort of like acts as that warning. That's why it is our modern mythos, is because it acts as that, like, it's different than Star Trek, because Star Trek is just like, it's a weekly series about exploring and looking at weird things and all that. Whereas Star Wars was always about dealing with that mythological question, like you're talking about, like that searching for that sense of purpose and meaning. When we meet Luke, what's he looking for? His reason. All he knows is he's not happy living the life that he is. He wants to do something more. Anakin, it's a little bit different, but even as a kid, he's like, I want to be a Jedi. I want to be a hero. I want to be the guy who saves everybody. And if you take that away from people, the ability to believe that they can do better, that they can succeed, or that they can celebrate the idea that there is something else, something more. And again, even taking it away from any sort of religious context, not because I want to, but just to sort of like broaden the lens, people need to have that time to celebrate, to be happy. You can't be angry all the time. Like, it's unsustainable. And maybe that's why the Empire burns itself out in like basically 20 years, is because they do make the mistake of, we're just going to be angry 24/7. And as a result, that's not sustainable.
Well, and I think too, and I think this is incredibly interesting the way this conversation is going, but
right.
The thing about the Empire, it becomes this thing where you only have yourself to believe in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come to the end of yourself, as we all do, and realize you've been weighed and found wanting,
mm-hmm.
as we all will, that leads you either to try and find something else to hold on to, something bigger than yourself, or it leads you to ruin, despair, and or, ending it all. And I think that's the thing is that the problem with this is that everything is stripped away from everyone in the Empire. There's nothing left but the Empire. And then as the Empire slowly, basically becomes a turning worm for people and they realize that this is nothing. There's nothing for them here other than slavery and servitude. It makes sense then, again, why the rebellion would take root. And freedom and the desire to pursue something greater than ourselves, but that isn't the state. Because again, we all realize, again, the state isn't God.
And even to turn it on its head then, is the rebellion a religious crusade? No, but they all say from the beginning, may the force be with you, which you could say, oh, well, that's a religious thing. But obviously there have got to be people who don't believe in the force who join the rebellion. Han Solo, everybody. And separating out his own journey toward finally believing everything. There are people who are joining the rebellion because there is something more to believe. And so even saying, may the force be with you, is an acknowledgement that they're fighting for something greater than self. That just comes to be what it represents. And that's why even may the force be with you becomes such an important catchphrase for the rebellion. Because even if somebody's like, well, I don't believe in the force, but they understand that behind that is somebody saying that there's something better than just existing, just getting by, and just being a cog in the machine.
Well, and I mean, you think about this idea too, in this, again, the symmetry of the original 6 films. You start the series. If you start with episode 1 with this pastoral planet where these Death Star-like machines are coming to destroy it, right? And slowly but surely they do destroy all that is good and beautiful in the galaxy. And then, of course, by the time you get to episode 6, where are we fighting? On a beautiful planet that's green and lush and full of life, right? And a Death Star-like machine, a Death Star, has come to destroy it. And so it's been flipped because now the rebellion and those that are fighting for all that is so much bigger than this mechanized society, they have the ability to win, And so it brings to mind in some ways, the Tolkien nature, right, of what you can see in the Lord of the Rings, and then of course that I think Lucas even uses somewhat in Star Wars, and Tolkien had this whole thing about the beauty of the natural world and the mechanized society with Mordor, and that is a big part of the story for him. And so I just think that it's an incredibly interesting thought process to think about the way in which, the Empire had tried to stamp out everything that wasn't itself by putting itself in the position of basically a religion and or a god. In the end, creates its own destruction because it will be weighed and found wanting, and people will be searching for something else.
But even keying off of that, because we talk about like how they're sort of like gradually going things out, it even makes more sense now why the attack point of what is now known as Episode 4 is what it is, because that's the moment in time where the Emperor dissolves the Senate. That's the final moment where they say, okay, job's done. Now we're just the Empire cog in a machine sort of thing. And if anything, that's why everything falls apart for them, is because that's the moment they go too far. They probably could have kept everybody still going for a while if they had not disbanded the Senate, because people would have sat down and been like, okay, well, at least I have representation and I'm allowed to celebrate my holiday. Sure, there aren't as many of us here as all of that, but it's a declaration. It's, hey, guess what? Now it's all just us. And that is, that lights the fuse that makes their quick demise inevitable.
Yeah.
Well,
and Again, I think this is also one of the places where I think Andor does such a great job of showing the way that the Empire is slowly stamping these things out. You think of Mon Mothma's story and, the way in which culture is slowly being disintegrated with the rituals for young adults on their planet that her daughter is supposed to go through, all of those type of things. How the young are becoming more enamored with the ways of the Empire, or you see her daughter and her friends getting so sucked back into the tradition. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing that's just so fascinating. And there's really one of the keys, I think, to the rebellion in the end, right? Is people are keying back into the things that give life more meaning and more purpose, which is those cultural traditions, which, for many of the planets in the galaxy would have been, religious traditions. You think of even the Twi'lek people, right? With, we saw in Rebels with, the Empire coming in and destroying their way of life, Thrawn taking the Kalkori, from Hera's family and trying to steal that, and which again is a cultural and religious artifact for them in many ways. So like the Star Wars galaxy, and a lot of the things that have been added, specifically by those, by George Lucas himself, or those I think really in tune with what he was doing, have continued to add to that story in many of the ways what we've been talking about. Sithmas is not good enough, and you really need Festivus for the rest of us.
I got to tell you, I know we had Thanksgiving and we're in the holiday season. Whoop-de-doo.
And dickory dock, and don't forget, hang up your sock. Because exactly at 12 o'clock, Darth will be coming down the chimney. You can just hear Anakin singing that.
That's a horror story. Exactly. That's not a... that's worse than Robot Santa in Futurama. But that's one of the things that we talked about being thankful for and everything. That's one of the things I love most about our time, Matt, is I'm throwing out this silly, dumb idea that I had while I'm at work because I just want to think about anything but work while I'm there and the day's winding down. And we go down this road. Like this is one of those episodes where like I'd be like, man, this is us. This is who we are on this show. I love it. I'm so grateful for the conversation. And I think people would be grateful if they knew where to reach you online so they could continue talking about it with you.
Absolutely. Well, I hope they do all over social media. Matt Rushing02 is the best place to find me. Of course, you can find me here on the network as well with a completed show called Owlpost. Drea Kaufman and I talked about every single chapter of the Harry Potter series. And then over on the TFM network, I've got a bunch of shows, the 602 Club. John's a frequent guest over there talking about all sorts of things that we love, all of the franchises that we love. Check that out. You can also find me doing the Orb, Warp 5, Saddle Up, Artificial Tango, and Literary Treks. But John, maybe people want to talk more about this idea for you or just what their favorite Sithmas carol is. Where can they find it?
My favorite Sithmas carol is simply called "O Mustafar Night," and in parentheses, no.
What child that's my favorite. Is this?
Burning on the shores. With
by the way, just before you,
his legs.
Somebody actually did a Padme. Did you know that your baby boy?
Oh my gosh.
So it's out there. You can find it.
Oh my goodness. We're through the looking glass, people. But you can find me on the internet. After you look up that video, you can find me as Castle Junkie out there. You can find me right here on the network, co-hosting a show called House Lights, where we look at other films and other series with other directors. I do that with Tristan Riddell and Darren Moser. We have a time. We have a good time most of the time, but sometimes it's just a time. And even those times are fun times. So go ahead and check out House Lights. But for now, Master Rushing, I have to complete my Secret Sidious shopping list. And so I say for now, it's time to close these negotiations.
Well, John, I hear the Life Day carols calling, so I think it's time for us to go back to the temple, because negotiations are closed.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.